Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the NXP Podcast. Joining me tonight, we've got Daniel Dement, the Pathofjiofreed. How you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm not fine. There, I did something different.
Yay! And we got a new guest joining us. We got Young Rots 112. What is going on, Robert?
Man, not too much.
All right. Now, before we get on to the actual podcast, I want to stress something. Just one quick little thing. If you are a sensitive individual, meaning you cannot handle criticism, critiquing of what is probably your most favorite movie of all time, GTFO, please, right now, because if you continue watching this video, you're gonna have a bad time. Good? Got it? Alright, so let's begin. What we want to talk about tonight would be The Dark Knight Rises. And as you guys know, the film recently came out in theaters. It's shattering box office records, getting some good reviews, doing what mainly any summer blockbuster movie would do. But some of us have been, well, shall I say, less than pleased with the final outcome of the movie. Now, myself and Young Rots saw the movie opening weekend, and Danny here. Danny, if I remember correctly, you did not see the film in theaters?
No.
No, why not?
No.
But man, it's the conclusion to the greatest trilogy of all time.
And it's the greatest movie of all time.
Oh my god, yeah, man, totally the
Yeah,
greatest movie of all time.
Totally, but see, I'm that hipster guy that hates everything, you know. So
Man, it's the best thing since wheat bread.
Oh,
yeah, but see, I have to hate everything. It's what I do.
Danny, you know you just hate everything that's new.
Yeah, I hate everything, especially the stuff that I say how many times that I love. You know, I totally hate that.
Nah, you hate everything, man. I think you hate the Amazing Spider-Man as well.
Oh God, totally. Yeah, I only said I loved it because they're paying me.
Oh god, who? Sony's paying you?
Yeah.
Oh my god, he's paid off by the
You
industry.
didn't get paid for that, did you? You sorry ass little sucker. Anyway.
Nobody's contacted me.
Chill.
Okay, but anyway, so yes, The Dark Knight Rises. Now, as you can already surmise, this video will contain spoilers about several plot points, characters, and just overall the ending of the film. So again, I advise
Bruce
you to...
Wayne is Batman.
Bruce Wayne is Batman, and Bane is supposedly Hispanic, but not really.
No.
And everything came in black.
Yes.
Bruce Wayne's parents died.
No, actually, I heard that the real person under a mask is Peter Parker.
Oh God, that you know what? I'd actually you just blew my mind.
Just might work, but man, how is it that it only took one comment to derail this entire video? What the hell? You, Danny, it's all your fault.
Yeah, totally my fault.
Yes, but
Okay, back on the track, yeah.
for the third time. That shit's too much. But the main gripes that we've had with this movie in particular would be the ending. Now, before anyone makes some assumptions, because obviously there are going to be some of those people, we are not haters of Christopher Nolan's work. All right?
Oh.
Because apparently if you have anything negative to say about The Dark Knight Rises, then you've hated on everything Christopher Nolan has done, which I find funny. Everybody here is in agreement that the first two films were really well done.
Exactly.
Exactly. In fact, that's the reason that I'm so upset about this.
So we've established that we are fans of Christopher Nolan's work, and the funny thing I find is that the people who are saying that, oh, these guys are Christopher Nolan haters, the only film that they've seen prior to Dark Knight Rises is The Dark Knight. Memento, Insomnia, all of the other films done by
Insomnia.
Nolan. Yeah, Insomnia.
You sure you don't mean Inception?
No. Inception and Insomnia.
Oh, you did. You did a movie called it. I didn't see that one.
You didn't see that? Okay, we're off the record for a second. And now we are back from our escapades on trying to convince Danny that Christopher Nolan did indeed do Insomnia. I was right. Anyways, we just really wanted to point out to you guys that we are not haters of Christopher Nolan just because we have some negative things to say about The Dark Knight. As far as films go, in general, I think that Begins, Dark Knight, and hell, even The Dark Knight Rises, I think that they are the best films we have had based off comic books. They're strong in a lot of places. They are paced really well. The writing is superb in each installment. Yeah, that aside, that is really one of the main reasons why we are so disappointed with this ending. Rots, you want to take it away on some of the main reasons why we have issues?
Well, my biggest issue is how the movie pretty much tossed out the whole point of the Dark Knight. You know, the Dark Knight where Bruce was pretty much getting ready to hang up the cowl, then realizing what Harvey Dent was doing, only to later on in the movie have that, what I call that trademark hero realization that you have to be what you have to be. And all know how the Dark Knight pretty much ended, him pretty much taking the bullet for Dent, thinking, okay, I can be this villain or whatever, because I'm nobody knows my face pretty much. So to just realize that moment and in the next movie you just went home and quit, that's my problem. The man quit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to further clarify, because some people apparently are thick enough that they don't get the ending of the movie and they genuinely think that the whole trilogy has been about him trying to find a replacement. What happened was he was looking for a reason to quit, but it was entirely centered around Rachel Dawes. Rachel, he believed, was waiting for him. That once he was done with the whole Batman thing, it could be Bruce Wayne again, that she would, be with him and they could get married and have a family and yada yada, et cetera, et cetera. She died. Okay, so that's one factor right there. So that's out of the way. Second of all, the man that he thought was capable of taking over, the man that he thought was strong enough to take this on in the public eye, the man that he thought that he could hand this off to, turned out to not be the man he thought he was. Because while he did have a very, strong passion for justice, while he was a good man, at the same time, all it took was the Joker pushing just the right buttons, and he snapped. His entire worldview was flipped. He became pretty much instantaneously corrupted. He didn't have the sheer force of will that was needed to do what Bruce was doing. Which is why he realized, I'm the only one who can do this. Unless and until I find someone exactly like me, and even then, I don't want to force this on anyone else. This is something that I can do. I can handle this. I can take this. This is my burden and mine alone. It's essentially Batman's "with great power comes great responsibility" moment. When he realizes that he can't just pass this off on to other people, this is his role. And then right away we're supposed to believe that he quit, and then they pass this magical act that keeps everyone in prison who was in prison and arrests everyone who wasn't, and so yeah, he's just gone for 8 years.
Essentially, the way I look at it is that the way The Dark Knight ended, I think that if they weren't going to do any other Batman movies, I felt that ending alone should have sufficed for anybody who wanted to get into Batman. Like, you watch this, and I think it would have been easier for you to transition into, like, the comics or playing something like Arkham City and then understanding his character. Personally, I just think that the way they worked out the ending, it's like it's its own form of closure, because it sort of wrapped up his origin story that they established in the first film. But they never left it for, like, sequel bait. It was one of those things that, like, Batman will go on to, do what he does. I thought that it ended perfectly. And then you move on to The Dark Knight Rises. Now, the first gripe that I had with the movie was this whole 8-year time gap. And within that time gap, Bruce Wayne had abandoned his Batman persona. He hasn't fought any crime since the night that Dent died. Now, the night that Dent died, this whole act that Danny was speaking about earlier, the Dent Act, essentially what it does, it keeps all of these guys in prison for life and ignores their constitutional rights. There's totally not a problem with that whatsoever. They've established that this is in the United States of America, yes?
Yep.
Well, yeah, but,
At least I believe so.
yeah.
It has the same sky.
Yes, it must be. Totally! But back on point, I mean, this passing of the Dent Act, which essentially killed organized crime. Mind you, organized crime. Keep that in mind, not crime altogether. Gotham City was still pretty bad. So there was no excuse for really Bruce Wayne to not be Batman. It's not like there was zero crime whatsoever. It was still...
Can,
What happened?
can I just throw in real quick and say that if anything, unorganized crime, complete chaotic crime, is a time when they'd actually need him more than ever, simply because there's no one around to kind of pull back on the leash of any of these guys. There's no one around to say ease off, the cops are onto us. There's no one around to say don't be going after these people. They don't have anything to do with this. They didn't wrong us. Nothing like that. Just people at random picking random targets, going around shooting the crap out of them. That's when he'd be needed to keep order the most. Honestly, I'm going to go so far as to say that if he hadn't left, the crime probably even the crime period probably still wouldn't have been that bad, just because all the random thugs would have been too scared to go out in it. But because he left, there you go.
And so, yeah, he left during this 8-year time period, and all he's been doing is he's really just more or less been a recluse. He hasn't had the will or the motivation to get back out there, and it's like, really now, he's going to just quit because of that. Now people like to say that, oh, it's because he couldn't save Rachel or save Harvey. And I remember, Danny, there was one complaint that people were saying is that he was so saddened by the death of Harvey that he hung up his cowl.
But he hardly knew the guy. And the thing that gets me about that is because, one, he hardly knew the guy. And while it is sad and tragic, yes, it's hardly something that I think would devastating them back. Number two, frankly, the whole death of Rachel and what happened to Harvey and everything is what motivated him to further go after the Joker, right up into doing something that even crossed the line for Lucius Fox. He did what he felt he had to do, no matter what, in order to bring this guy to justice. And I mean that's what motivated him in the Dark Knight. It was the anger over that. It was the grief over that. He needed to do them justice, and he got it for them. The way that they have him carrying on in this movie is almost like he couldn't avenge them somehow. He couldn't get justice for what had happened to them, even though he did. He got the guy responsible for her death. He got the guy responsible for twisting Harvey like that. He's sitting behind bars. So why would he feel this massive racking amount of guilt just because he's not some sort of deity that can change how people think?
He didn't know what was going through Harvey's head through all this time, so how would it be his fault?
Exactly. And again, Dent's death is what motivated him and made him real, and his actions are what made him realize I have to do this.
Exactly.
I mean, generally speaking, there were many parts of this movie where you had Bruce Wayne not even acting anything remotely like Batman. You wouldn't expect Batman to do that. And before anybody gets on me saying that, oh, it's an adaptation, so they're allowed to take several liberties. Okay, listen. These are basic character traits, all right? Basic traits that don't need to be changed for the sake of making it easier to adapt onto film.
Exactly.
This is the character. This isn't like a gigantic, huge demon that they're trying to make into CG, and then you have to have this 8-foot tall guy fight him, whatever. You get what I'm saying. This stuff is part of the character, why people love him. They don't need to be changed for adapting. And if anyone says, well, why would I want to see this again if I could just go back and read the comics? I want something new. Okay, so essentially you want a character who is named Batman not acting anything like Batman? Oh, that explains Dragon Ball Evolution right there. Goku not acting like Goku. That's awesome.
Like, here's the thing. It's like there is a line. I made a video once asking, is there a line? But there really is, though. If it's to the point where it's unrecognizable, you cross the line. I don't care how good it is. If you lose who you making your movie about, you lost me. Like
It's an adaptation at the end of the day. Several things have to be changed. There's artistic vision. Yes, that is true. But to the point that they're going, no, this doesn't need to be changed at all. So what we wanted to touch on first, and this isn't going to...
But real quick, though, before we touch on anything else, I need to throw this out because I know there's going to be at least one idiot in the comments trying to claim this. No one is trying to insinuates this film is half as bad as Dragon Ball Evolution.
No, I just want to throw it out there that I think the film is very well done. It is very enjoyable. It kept me entertained all 2 hours and 45 minutes, and that's something that I commend for Christopher Nolan. He knows how to keep your butt in the seat and not have your mind wander off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. It's a meh Batman movie.
Personally, I think that it is a good movie nonetheless. It's well done. It's one of the better to come from Hollywood as of late. But like I said, as a Batman movie, it misses the mark on so many levels, as we've pointed out a few, and we're going to point out some later. And now we want to move over to something else that we really wanted to touch on, Bane. Oh, God, I see already Danny, you want to start some shit now?
No, it's ballerina fighting. That's all.
Oh no, man! You're gonna try to rip apart that iconic scene that really wasn't Bane breaking Batman's back, more along the lines of, I don't even know what that was.
He dropped him. He literally picked him up over his head and then let him fall onto his knee. That's it.
Bounce, man, bounce.
He bounced off it.
Bounced.
Bane, it's like he dropped it. I swear to God, someone needs to take that scene and add a squeaky sound effect right there.
That fool Bane was watching too much Ultimate Muscle.
But seriously, I mean, Bane in the comics, when he breaks Batman's back, he actually takes him physically, bends him backward.
That fool did the backbreaker.
Until he heard it snap, and it didn't just snap once; it snapped 3 times before he finally stopped, and then just threw him onto the ground and left him there to die.
He did a full-on backbreaker.
Had him by the legs, had him by the throat, and bent him over his knee.
If Batman was a broom, he would have snapped in two.
But guys, he's the goddamn Batman, so we shouldn't make any complaints.
This is the Batman. He can will himself better.
He can will himself. His back is broken.
Never mind the spinny punch. Never mind that Batman allowed himself to be carried by the throat for about 15 seconds without even trying to hit him in the arm, the face, anything. Never mind the fact that he's got freaking blades in his gauntlets that he could have sliced the guy with. Nope.
None of that, man. Just because. Just because for the plot they wanted to do it. Just because it's definitely one of those times where they're trying to recreate an iconic scene from the comics that everybody knows, they love, they are anticipating, and then when you actually see it, most people are going to be like, "Wow, that was awesome." Why? Because it happened. But if you actually look deeper into it, it's wrong on so many levels. It's not even the same scene.
It's a lesser extreme of what Sam Raimi did in Spider-Man 1 with the bridge scene.
Oh yeah. Again, like we're saying, this is nowhere as bad as something like Dragon Ball Evolution or Spider-Man did, whereas in Spider-Man 1, Sam Raimi went so far as to recreate the night Gwen Stacy died. He swapped out Gwen Stacy for Mary Jane, and essentially he made Spider-Man choose. Would you save the girl of your dreams, or would you save a bus full of kids? You know, it's one of those times where we have to make a choice. We can't always have the best of everything. But in this film, it essentially destroyed the meaning of choice and had him save both. I'm like, really now? You make up all this suspense, and it's like, that's a valuable life lesson that he did learn in the comics.
Yeah, well, at least Batman actually still got the crap knocked out of him here.
But you know, like we're saying, not that bad.
You know what? I don't care if they're nitpicks. I got a right to nitpick things.
Done. All right, so
no. Wait a minute. One thing about that fight, I really want to say, is it just me, or did they pretty much make it seem like you can blame the rustiness for why Batman got whooped so bad, rather than originally it was an exhaustion of fighting everybody in Arkham Asylum?
I would say so too. Like, cause everyone's saying that, oh, Batman could have fought Bane if he was at his 100%. I question, I'm like, why wasn't he at his 100%? Like, you see in the movie, all he needed to do was put that leg brace on, and he was more or less, for the most part, back to his original state. So why did it take them 8 years for him to realize, you know what, maybe I can do something?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, if he honestly got back out there with that brace on, he would have, I think, just generally gotten used to it, even with his...
If he could handle himself as well as he did there, he could have handled himself against regular thugs, no problem.
Mm-hmm. But here, it's all about that weakness, man. Which kind of takes away from the fact that Bane is supposed to be this, like, huge freaking force, opposing force for Batman. And when you actually see it happen, it's like, oh my god, this guy is literally getting the crap kicked out of him at his peak. Whereas here, it's just him. He's semi-Batman.
Yeah, he's got rust.
Mm.
And why? Every movie that he's been portrayed in now, Bane, he's still a lackey.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you guys want to touch on that? Yeah.
I didn't hear what he said. What'd you say, Danny?
He's still a lackey. He's still working for somebody. He can never be a mastermind. He's always going to be doing someone else's work.
Exactly. It's like I don't know where it started to happen at, but Bane started being depicted as quote unquote dumb muscle.
I will break you, Batman. I think the common notion that people are getting is that Bane is supposed to be as he was portrayed in Batman and Robin. You know, that brute who worked for Poison Ivy who can barely say one sentence. And then when you see him in Rises, and he's definitely more intellectual. He is powerful, but you know, he's got more of a character, which is what I liked. I was actually impressed with what they did with Bane until the ending of the movie, where they reveal that all this time he was working for Talia al Ghul, who was a friend of Bruce Wayne's, an alias. And I'm like, really? Bane couldn't come up with this by himself? He had to be helping Talia out? Really?
Exactly. I told Danny, I was like, Bane was a lackey with a lot of screen time.
Oh my god, yeah, that's exactly what he was. I mean, seriously, you make it out to be like this huge force, and it's like, whoa, man, this guy's powerful. And then you see the real brains behind the operation. I'm like, really? You went so far as to actually give this guy intellect? Really?
Well, basically, to be perfectly blunt, when I saw Bane, the most that he had the intellect about was blowing stuff up and smashing people. He just did it. Well, he was just better. He was just better spoken while he did it.
I think, mate, I don't care. But man, in regards to Bane, it's just I guess I was all right with what they did, but man.
Then the way he died.
Oh God.
Oh please.
No. But anyways, we've talked much about Bane. I thought we were only going to spend a minute on it, but damn. Now let's move on to well, actually, you know what? I don't know if this would be considered kind of a nitpick, but Rob, since you've seen the movie, you remember how Scarecrow was the judge for everybody?
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
But he wasn't Scarecrow. He was just Crane.
He was just Crane, which I pretty much find pointless other than keeping a running gag. He was pretty much the Bruce Campbell of this movie series.
Yeah, man. I mean, you see him there. It's like, oh, you've established Scarecrow. I'm like, great. And you've also established that he's still out there. Whoa, what's he gonna do now? You see him in The Dark Knight. All right, good. He got a little screen time. Well, what's he gonna do in Rises? Oh, he's just the judge. So, it's like, why couldn't he? For those who he convicted, why didn't he do the whole Scarecrow thing? Gas him.
Exactly. Scarecrow could have been somewhere giving routine gases to people.
Yeah, would have definitely done something. But now let's move on to the big one here, which I know is going to piss a lot of people off. The ending of the movie. Yeah, this is where people are going to show their true colors. Everyone's going to get pissed off. So.
Oh yeah, this is going to be the moment where we apparently did not see the movie at all.
Yeah, the one thing that we apparently needed to see it twice just to understand the meaning. Okay, so essentially, what happens is after they defeated Talia and Bane, this giant nuke that's going to level like 6 miles of Gotham is going to explode. So Batman takes upon himself to drive the nuke out of the city onto the open sea and essentially sacrifice himself for the greater good of Gotham. Personally, we'll get to that. We'll cross that bridge. Speaking of bridges, build it up. I'm building it up, man. Building it up. Just like Sam Raimi built up Spider-Man 3 and then... Yep. So, you see, here's the thing that I had. Now, they were talking about for the longest time that they are going to end this film series with the third movie. So there was a lot of rumor floating around that he would die because they were going to reboot it anyway. So I felt that if they were going to kill Batman off, I think that the way they presented it, this would have been perfect because it's him for the greater good of the city sacrificing himself. While I wouldn't have personally done that, I would have done it in the style of Dark Knight, where it's like he can live to fight another day. There's still more stories to be told. I think it would have worked for this. It would have been an okay ending. That's not the case.
Exactly.
That's not the case, though. So what happens is that, okay, the nuke goes off, and Bruce Wayne, obviously, is dead, and they have a funeral for him. The real major story of how he died, apparently he died within the riots, so that's how they covered it up. And time passes by, and then you see Alfred in the place in Italy that he was mentioning to Bruce, and you see Bruce Wayne alive with Selina Kyle. They apparently use the whole clean slate to remove themselves from all of their identities essentially wiped clean. And then you see that Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, Jonathan Blake, inherits the Batcave. Now, there are many problems with this. First and foremost. Look at that laugh right there. Future Joker laugh. Okay, first and foremost, all right, the whole clean slate thing. All right, here's my problem. This is a plot hole in and of itself. Because I can understand for Selina Kyle why she wanted to remove her identity. That makes sense. But for Bruce Wayne is one of the most recognizable people out there. Removing his identity from the books is not going to stop a person from noticing him. He has that iconic look.
Yep.
Everybody knows who Bruce Wayne is. He's a billionaire.
For crying out loud, if they can still see Tupac even years after he actually died, then they can definitely find Bruce Wayne if he's still alive and hobnobbing on an open public place in Italy.
Yeah, it's not even like he went so far as to cut his hair or wear sunglasses he literally the same look. He didn't do anything. And Selina Kyle looks the same as well. I'm like, really? And if they actually found out that he faked his death, oh yeah, he'd be in for a
they're
big
in a
mess of trouble.
public open air cafe.
Yeah. So seriously, like him doing that, it's not as if like Alfred was, I don't know, at the Batcave and then he saw Bruce Wayne there or something. I think that would have made sense because the Batcave's secluded. So, all right, plausible. But this nigga's out in the open. Man, it'd be like I go into Walmart and then I see this guy there. I'm like, oh wow.
And then you see Gordon with his file, and he reads something in it, and then he goes over and, oh Lord, there's a new bat signal.
Yep. So we've already established that that Batman was dead. They had a statue dedicated for him, and also since Batman was dead, Commissioner Gordon did find out the identity. He was Bruce Wayne. So by Batman being alive, that's essentially telling Gordon that Bruce Wayne is alive. He looked at the file. He sees the bat signal. Who else would put that up there?
Right.
Yeah, but, people might consider this nitpicky, like, oh, well, every film has those type of problems. Why are you guys really complaining? Why is this not like Batman? Who wants to handle this?
Take it away, man.
Like, it's the friggin' Batcave, and
Yep.
is going to become Batman.
And
that's why that bat signal's there. There ain't no interpretation. There ain't no, oh, he might become Robin and fight under his own name. Because, yeah, it turns out his real first name is Robin. Robin. Yes,
yep.
That's Christopher Nolan's little wink and a nod. See, I made Robin become the new Batman, so you can't be mad at me, crap.
So pretty much, there be a new Batman, and his name is Robin.
And yet, no training, no nothing, no 4 years of training with the League of Shadows, no learning the way of invisibility, no learning the art of distraction, nothing about the theatrics or anything like that. Didn't learn none of the stuff that made Batman able to be Batman, but he's going to become Batman just because I love justice and stuff.
Yeah, and you know what the funny thing is? Why we say that this film contradicts so much. All right, so first off, you have Batman faking his own death and essentially wanting to live the quiet, cozy life, and then he gives the responsibilities to this cop with good intentions. Now, here's the main problem with this. Like Danny said, he doesn't have the necessary training that Batman underwent. In the comics, Batman trained his apprentices, all right? Every single one of them, and it was years before he felt that Dick Grayson was ready to actually go out on his own, right?
Yeah.
Well, yes and no. Dick actually wanted to go out on his own first, but it took him years, and it took years of Dick proving that he can make it on his own too. for Batman to, in the comics, actually trust him with taking up the role of Batman for a while if anything ever happened. He was the only person that he trusted to be able to do that.
Whereas over here, he's just giving this guy the Batcave, and, you know, this is the funny thing. Everybody is saying that, oh, well, you just have to interpret what's going to happen. Like, maybe he does get that training. Maybe he does become Batman. Maybe he does become Nightwing. It's so open-ended. No. First off, Batman would never just leave some guy the responsibility and say, oh, yeah, he'll probably do a good job. Also, what indication is there for him to inherit Batman? How can he become Batman? What, because he has good intentions? Look what happened in The Dark Knight with Harvey Dent. Look how easily he was swayed.
The guys that he busted in that parking garage, they had good intentions.
Yeah.
And he screamed at them to go home before they hurt themselves.
Yeah, in The Dark Knight, exact same thing. First off,
the Gotham City Imposter.
Oh shit!
Hockey pads.
I'm not wearing them. No, but
Hockey
man,
pads sent him into an uncontrollable rage. It's like a bull seeing red.
haven't you guys noticed that in every single Nolan Batman film, he's always asking where something is?
Yeah.
Where are they? Where's the detonator?
Where is my dignity?
Not in The Dark Knight Rises, I'll tell you that.
That is your Batman interrogation right there. No threat into your life. No, I'm just going to yell at you until you break.
Well, Nolan did establish that this is the young Batman, so he's not the world's greatest detective. He wouldn't be asking where everything is.
That should bother people, too. This trilogy concludes with Batman literally having only 1 year of experience being Batman. Period. Over a 9-year span, he's Batman for 1 full year. Shouldn't that bother someone?
Apparently it's not going to bother anybody, Danny, because it's Batman and Christopher Nolan. Whatever he says goes. Doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense. Doesn't matter if it's not in line with the comics or if it's a slap in the face to the character. Whatever, I guess. But yes, you see how easily Harvey Dent was broken. You can't simply judge somebody solely on their face value, what you think about them from that one meeting. You have to dig deeper and discover who they really are. And this also plays into something that happened in Batman Begins, with Bruce Wayne wanting Batman to be a symbol.
Yeah, okay. Here's another case, too, of symbology and film being taken way too literally. Because everybody says, oh, Batman's a symbol, that means that anyone can be him, and that's not what he's saying at all. Not in a literal sense, anyway.
He would be a symbol in the sense that how he wanted it in Batman Begins, he wanted to be a figure that nobody could persecute, nobody could threaten, nobody could go after, simply because, like, it doesn't matter, like, you as a person, there's always going to be a way to get to you. You have this guy who has no face, no name, nobody knows his background whatsoever, he has no ties to anything. How are you supposed to get to a person like that?
Exactly. He can work out, he can do things that the cops can't do. He can't be prosecuted for it because they don't know who he is. He can do the stuff that they can't do. He can get the information they can't get. And again, what are they going to do? Take him to court?
Batman has no jurisdiction.
Yeah, he has the whole, the whole city's his jurisdiction. There's nothing outside of his authority to do.
He went to China, for Christ's sake.
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. I mean, he's willing to go to China to drag back somebody that he needed. That should tell you a lot about how, that says a lot about his determination too.
Mm-hmm.
And yet this, and oh god, and then oh man. But see, when he says he wants him to be a symbol, it's more than that. He wants him to be something that's incorruptible, something that's above that, something that, you can't buy him off. You can't find out what his weaknesses are. You can't turn him or push him because you don't know who he is.
Exactly. The man is a rock.
Yes, and what really, really gets to me, and that's another thing that he learned too when Rachel died, is that he can't have a relationship either. Yep. Which is also something that Batman believes in the comics. I can't do that. No matter how much I might want to, I can't. It creates a weakness. I can't afford to have that.
Bruce Wayne is more than willing to cut himself off from everything.
If he has to.
The more ties you have, to this world, the easier it is for somebody to get to you.
Exactly. Yeah, even his money he's willing to let go if he has to.
Yep. But back to the whole symbol aspect, they established that it would, like Danny said, but in the third movie, essentially he's saying that anybody can be Batman. So why were they making such a big deal in The Dark Knight when you had the Gotham City imposters? They had good intentions.
Yeah, I know, and that's the flip side though of the symbol too. See, it wasn't just something that was incorruptible too. It was something that's supposed to give people hope, to inspire them to not be afraid. That they had someone looking out for them, and that somebody was willing to stand up and take these people on, and they should too. He was looking to inspire people and give them hope. I mean, this whole city, they had all pretty much all just resigned themselves to living under corruption forever. It's just the way things were, and you had to try to survive day to day, and that was life. And it shouldn't have been that way, and he wanted to give them a hope. He didn't. To say that it's a symbol, though, does not mean that literally anyone can just stand up and take it and say, "I'm Batman." That's not how it works.
It was the meaning behind it is essentially what they were going for.
It's someone took it too literally, and that was something that was actually deflected in The Dark Knight. Other people taking up vigilantism and everything. That's not what he was going for.
Yep.
And yet that's completely undone in this movie.
Exactly. Anybody can be Batman as long as they have good intentions. Right there, it's completely done. So he left this guy there who has good intentions, who again can be as easily corrupted, because who's to say maybe the Joker might break out and do the same thing to Jonathan Blake. Maybe.
He's broken out God knows how many times in the comics, and yet
it could happen. Like I said, don't say that. Oh, that's just assuming. Well, they did.
And don't say the Dent Act can keep him there either. He was locked up for life in Arkham. He still got out.
There are ways. The Joker's crazy, people. But in all seriousness, they just pretty much undid what they established in the previous movies. The whole symbol meaning was more the meaning behind it. It didn't mean becoming a vigilante and going out there because anybody can be Batman. It was to inspire people to not be afraid of this corruption, which is why we are so pressed with this ending, because those great themes, those great messages that they went so far to establish, they undid them for apparently closure. And oh boy, was this not closure.
Honestly, to be perfectly blunt, when going into this movie, when I heard about it and everything, I really thought that, especially going up against someone with the mind of Bane, that this was the movie where we were really going to see him, have to master his detective skills, have to master his, combat skills, have to master. It was going to force him to grow, and that was how he was going to become the Batman we know from the comics. And you'd have a fully fleshed out origin tale right there, and it would be so perfect. It would be the perfect cap. It'd be like you could start with this and then just pick the comics right up from anywhere, and you'd know exactly who he was and how he got to be there. It was shaping up to be something so awesome. And this.
Anyone wants an example for those who aren't really savvy with Batman? Because I know a lot of people who don't read the comics, but they play the video games. Just look at how he is in the Arkham games, the Arkham City games, his mastery, his intellect, all that stuff. This, what it was established and begins in Dark Knight, was leading into that. But for some strange reason, Nolan said that he wanted to end it off here. This was marketed as a final conclusion, closure for Batman. This was not closure for Batman. This was closure for Mr. Pretend over here.
One thing I just want to say is like, this ending does not work good for if Christopher Nolan had a mindset of this being a Batman origin story. You can't cover Batman's whole career in 3 movies. Like, no way, no how. Like, I was expecting for the third, after I saw The Dark Knight, I was expecting for the third movie to pretty much be Batman's redemption, pretty much. A way for him to put himself back in Gotham's good light, and pretty much I would have been good with ending the third movie with the Batman we all know and love. Now, if he would have made a 4th movie, then you could probably jump into the point of, he thinking about winding it down. But even then, I still believe that's too soon, because he started all the way from the beginning.
So essentially, like, these movies would be his origin story, all fleshed out, and then you would lead into the comics. I think, personally, I think that is the perfect way to do an origin story for an ongoing source material.
Right.
Because it works out well. I mean, there's no... Because you know how, when it comes to these comic book films, they kind of get into the issue of, we want to make this the biggest ending, so we either have to kill the character for no reason or... sequel bait it to see if people want more.
Right.
But with Nolan's films, they never really felt like sequel bait, to be honest. I mean, like everything they wanted to do in the movies, they did it. But this one, definitely sequel bait. This isn't something that, oh man, we can just leave it here and then go read the comics. No, because Batman's retired here of his own free will. It doesn't make much sense.
It undermines the comics. It undermines the trilogy. It undermines the character. Period.
And again, like we said earlier, we are fans of Christopher Nolan's work. We adored the first two movies. They were so good because they were Batman. They were great adaptations. They knew when to draw the line. They knew how to make a great movie as well as remaining faithful to it. But in this movie, it just undid all of that great stuff. And I know some of you guys are not going to care about it because it's a movie and you shouldn't take it seriously. But why shouldn't you take a movie seriously? I mean, this is something that is meant to be taken seriously.
Exactly.
There is so much.
If you are as big as a Batman fan as you say you are, you notice how seriously wrong this movie was at some points.
What I really find funny, this is the icing on the cake. Everybody says, well, it's supposed to end. These are supposed to appeal to the masses, so that's why they had to do what they have to do. Why is it that the general public is pointing this out? The people who aren't Batman fans. The people who are just reviewing these because, I don't know, they have an obligation to, they're pointing out these problems. Because they're looking at these as logical films, not as comic book adaptations. They're noticing how half-assed this was and how it isn't like the character at all.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of which, I mean, seriously, the review, some of the critics have gotten death threats for that. And in fact, one of them, the one in specific that was so horrendous that Rotten Tomatoes actually has to change their comment policy and everything. I mean, it got bad. Was a guy who said that the movie wasn't even necessarily a bad movie, just did not live up to his expectations, did not live up to the rest of the trilogy, and had a lot of wasted potential. That was his overall assessment of the film. It had a lot of wasted potential, but it was still a good movie. And he got death threats.
People, a guy who liked the movie said that it has a lot of flaws. It was wasted potential, but it is still a good movie at the end of the day. Death threats. Really? Really?
Death threats. I mean, that's the dumbest of the dumb.
I mean, for Christ's sake, these people are no better than the freaking Twitards or the Beliebers or all those type of people, you know?
Thank you. That's what I said. I was like, they are no different from the Bieber girls now.
No, I know about being passionate. I know when you really want to show that you love something. That is true. Compared to a lot of the other films out there, Nolan's films for Batman, they are really good movies, and I understand why people would love them so much, but this is taking it to the extreme. You just have to accept when something is mediocre. And like we said, it's a good movie, but it doesn't live up to the hype. It doesn't live up to the trilogy. And the reason why people are getting so excited about this, it's not just because it's another Batman film. Ignoring that is because there was so much established to get hyped for.
Yep. I just want to say, you know, we went as far as to say all this, and we went as aggressively as we did because I know we're hard. We looking out for Batman. It's like, as fans, you know, we can say things like this because we want Batman to eventually be taken care of. Me, I say it to Danny all the time. I'm still waiting for the real Batman, the Batman that I can look at and just be like, man, this was a step in the right direction. Well, except for this previous movie, but that's the only thing I want to say. I'm looking out for Batman.
People love the source material and they just want to make sure that they're handled correctly. It's one of those things that you just have to distance yourself. Just because you love something doesn't mean you should wear these goggles saying, well, it wasn't that bad, when you really know it is. I know people out there, I'm not going to mention any names in specific, but they know that the film undermined the entire trilogy, yet they're okay with it because it was Batman.
Exactly. See, that's that same type of mindset wives that get abused have. They ignore it.
I know somebody who actually not only made that claim, but then went on to say that it was actually better than the last movie.
Oh my God.
I know one guy that just flat out said he didn't care about the comics. The movie was good.
Yeah, as long as it's an entertaining movie, then I don't care. Well, you know what?
I don't care. I don't care what the comics say, but yet I'm such a hardcore Batman fan. What are you a fan of?
Yeah. I mean, seriously, the films are entertaining, I'll give it that, but you can't just say that because by that mindset, Dragon Ball Evolution was a good film because it was entertaining. Derp, derp, derp.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and then, oh man, worse than that though is probably the guy that I saw say that there shouldn't be any more Batman films. Just pull a freaking George Lucas and
Oh
remaster and re-release some of it. So,
no.
yeah, seriously,
I'm
they're actually
telling you, I've
advocating that.
seen several
There is an
people that have
online
said
petition
that.
for that, believe it or not, and it gets signatures. It's not just sitting there; people actually sign it.
They
Um,
want Batman on lock after these
yeah,
3 movies.
yeah. Well, here's the thing: that the reason that I'm so hard on this movie is, well, I had such high expectations for it. It was set up in such a brilliant way, and then it just fell flat. So that upsets me. It upsets me because it just completely changed who Batman is. So it's that. But on top of all that, and what really does get me, and I said this earlier, is Nolan is better than this. He is better than this. Just flat out better than what he did here. And that, I mean, I'm calling him out on this because I'm a fan of his, and I know he can do better than this. And that's why I'm trying to hold him accountable because, as a fan, he has a standard that I've come to expect from him and respect him for it. It's a standard that so many people in Hollywood will not set for themselves, and he allowed himself to slip under it, and he needs to be made aware of that. You can't just, being a fan of somebody doesn't mean you'll kiss their butt and watch whatever they do. If they put out a turd, you tell them you put out a turd so that they know, hey, you know what, people, I slipped up. People didn't like this. I slipped up. This is not what I could have done. I can do better. He needs to know that. People need to
Exactly.
be reminding him because when you put someone up on a pedestal and you don't ever correct them when they start putting out turds, you know what you get? You get James Cameron. That's what you get.
Ah, no, you didn't.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
really went there.
This man went from Terminator to Titanic to Avatar. Okay, and it was because Titanic was a turd in and of its own right. It survived mostly on fangirl hype, and nobody was willing to call him on the turdiness of it all, the unhealthiness of that relationship, all that. No, they just said, "Oh, it's beautiful. Oh, it's amazing. Oh, it's James Cameron, so it's got to be good." And then same with Avatar. I mean, there was for the longest time nobody would call him on it until finally someone stood up and in an the Emperor has no clothes moment said, "Hey, guess what? This movie actually kind of sucks because it makes no sense." And there you go. But see, it's James Cameron, so James Cameron has to be good. And now, and I do not want to see that happen to Nolan. I do not want to see a great director get turned into an egotistical, pretentious douche like James Cameron.
Mm-hmm. Which is why you gotta learn to take off them goggles and look beyond the bullshit. I mean, it's just that, like Danny said, there's a standard that needs to be upheld, and just imagine what'll happen in the future if people are like, oh, it's Nolan, it doesn't matter if it's slightly bad. I mean, it's like, really now, you don't want 110% from this performance. You're gonna spend like what, $12 on a movie ticket, and you're only getting like what, 30%? Really?
Exactly. It's like you let somebody feel themselves too much, and
I'm,
you start getting lesser quality, like Rocksteady. But that's another time, though.
well, it's also like Zack Snyder when he made Sucker Punch. Everyone told him what a turd that was, and frankly, he admitted he didn't put too much effort into it. He admitted it was supposed to be mostly for the visuals, but he can do better than that, and people knew he could do better than that, which is why they were so upset about that. If you're willing to hold him accountable, why won't you hold Nolan accountable?
And just as a little side note, since we're pretty much done with the actual discussion of the movie, with the Man of Steel, I find it kind of funny. You see all the comments on these videos. Oh my God, Christopher Nolan's producing it. That means this film is going to be awesome. You watch this. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. If by some strange reason the film fails critically and commercially, people are going to blame Zack Snyder for
Zack
it.
Snyder.
But if the film does well, Christopher Nolan will get all the praise, even though he's not putting in freaking half the effort Snyder is into this.
No
Yep.
kidding. Snyder's down there. He's on there filming it. He's got to make sure all the takes are right. He's got to edit the thing together. He's got to. he's doing the heavy lifting, and yet he ain't even gonna get one fraction of the credit for it.
Either way, it's just kind of stuck there. It's like, I mean, it's just, again, it goes back to this whole love for Christopher Nolan. I love the guy, but he can do better than this, and he should do better than this. And as a fan of his, if you call yourself a fan, you shouldn't look past this, because then they start getting, like I said, you get into the mindset that, well, this bullshit is okay since it's this person. I mean, Jesus, man, seriously. But pretty much that is all we had to say really on The Dark Knight Rises, the ending. There's really, I mean, with this whole ending, apparently it was supposed to be a conclusion, and then there were talks about a reboot coming out, but after seeing this ending, I think that Warner Brothers is going to milk the hell out of a fourth movie, even if Nolan's involved or not.
If they do, oh my goodness. You guys, I know you guys see it all the time. You know that shark face people get when your teeth get all jagged and your eyes get white?
Oh my God. I'm telling you right now, all of the assumptions that people are saying right now, well, maybe Bruce Wayne is going to come out of hiding and train Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and then they're going to have the fourth movie where he's training Joseph Gordon-Levitt out of nowhere, and then Batman somehow comes back as Batman along with this guy, but Batman was dead, so why is he back? What?
Yeah,
It's becoming a
this is-
clusterfuck, to be honest, if they go the route.
It's yeah.
And if they do end up going the route of a reboot, I'm excited simply because, not because, like, I know it's like, when people say that I'm excited for a reboot, they automatically assume that I must have hated the last installment and it just completely destroyed the canon. It's not so much here per se. I'm not like that level angry as I was with Spider-Man 3 or X3. But I think that with the Nolan films, you know, they're really good. This is a different version of Batman, but the comic bookiest style of Batman, I think we should still be able to see on film. You know, like some things that you have to suspend your belief because it is a comic book film. I think we can still see those on film and still watch the Nolan films at the same time. It's not something like Spider-Man and then seeing the Amazing Spider-Man. It's something that they can both exist together. And I do feel sorry for the schmuck that will end up rebooting Batman because he's going to get the Mark Webb treatment. I guarantee you.
Oh my goodness, he is.
I'll tell you one better. Let's get Mark Webb to do it.
Yeah, let's get Mark Webb to do it. Smack in the face. But
Exactly.
seriously, watch. They're going to say, why are they doing this? Nolan's the best director of all time. This new guy will suck even though we haven't seen anything about it. And even though he's going back and giving us all of the villains that we wanted for the third movie. And, okay now. Whoa, what's going on here? But... man, how much of a slap in the face would it be if they did a Batman Beyond movie? Like literally in this universe.
Oh, that would be horrible.
No. So
I'd have to.
oh my goodness. The only thing they could do to make the just to be the extra salt in the wound is if Terry McGinnis was a descendant of Blake himself.
Or if he was Blake becomes Batman Beyond.
Oh,
I'm like,
God.
it's one of those things where you went ahead and shot me. You might as well go ahead and choke me out too.
It's just like, damn, they are really going to do something like that. And I've always been gunning for a Batman Beyond movie, but not in this fashion. No. I could, personally, I could see I could see a Batman Beyond movie working in the Nolan universe. I could see it happen. I could. Like, if they did what we wanted them to do for the third movie, and then, like, maybe a fourth movie or a fifth movie, something happens, and then you can have Joseph Gordon-Levitt become, Terry McGinnis. Like, reveal his real name was Terry McGinnis. Oh, my freaking God. That would have worked out perfectly for this 5-film series, this quintology.
Oh my God, you know what? It would have been less insulting at least.
It would have been.
In a way, yeah.
Like, and then they say Robin, which is a contradiction because Christopher Nolan said on numerous occasions that if I did Robin in this universe, he would be a baby in the crib. So he's too young, and I don't really want to work with a child actor. Oh.
And you see, and this is one of the key things. He chose to do an origin series, though. This is things that should have been thought out.
Yeah, he shouldn't be bringing Robin in here in his origin days, man.
Exactly. This is an origin series. If you knew you planned on doing 3 and this is an origin series, like nothing drastic could really happen. Passing of the cow, that was ridiculous. No Robin, none of that.
Man, honestly, I think that if they were going to if they were going to try to do Robin, I think that they should have established that they should have done the origin story with these 3 movies. Then they do like a jump for like 10 or 15 years. I don't know how many years. And then you see the Batman that we know from the comics. And then maybe you see him pick up this pupil or disciple or something. Oh, man, Nolan, why?
In conclusion, this is the single longest in conclusion we've ever done.
Yep, single longest. I think I've said it like
really
twice.
is.
I said it like twice that we're going to end this here. In closing.
Hey, we're 3 men with a lot to say.
Yeah, man. In closing, man, Christopher Nolan, disappointed. Let's go off on tangent to Christopher Nolan and James Cameron and Terry McGinnis.
And fanboys.
Oh, man, the Nolanites. In conclusion.
We just had a trilogy of inconclusion.
Oh, my God, dude.
That's how epic Christopher Nolan is. Talking about him led us into a trilogy.
Man, we made more money. We made more money at the box office. We made $1 billion off of the part 1, and then we made like $6 billion off the next 2.
I'm telling you, but the only thing is our conclusion will hold still to how we started this.
Yeah, and then they're gonna remake our trilogy on Christopher Nolan. They're gonna get all these actors to play us. Oh God.
Yep.
But you had to say something, Danny.
Yeah. If this is our 3rd in conclusion, don't we like have to fake our own deaths and bring in someone completely new to take over?
Hey guys, Future Go On, G2 here, and welcome to another installment